Hello, everybody. Again, I see that we have some of our regular attendees, what is great to see. But also we have some people for the first time, again from all around the globe. What is absolute pleasure. This session would be a little bit specific. So on this session, we will not have a specific one topic to talk about, or we will not have, as you already are noticing, an interview as often. However, on this session, we will concentrate on some of the most asked questions that you had for us in a previous time. So we simply wanted to address them in one live Q&A session. And what is even more important, you are, of course, as always, free to ask questions while I'm talking, and definitely I will try to answer on everything that you had. So let us start immediately with the first question. The first question that we often ask is the following: can you use project management skills in other professions? That is a wonderful question, and actually, thank you very much for asking that one. And there is a short and long answer to this one. Short answer is that absolutely you can, but this question deserves more attention, and let's see why the answer is resounding yes. So first, on a higher plane, project management is about organizing work and leading up people. So you have two huge areas that you can use in your even daily life, not to mention different professions. So let's cover first the first area of interest: organizing the work. So when you have something to be done, you need to know what needs to be done. What is your scope of work? What is your task? How you drill down your tasks. If you are building a home, how you are building this one idea into more manageable chunks. So how you divide building fundaments, building walls, building a roof, and then how you divide building fundaments in more manageable chunks, and so on. So the first and the most important thing is analyzes what needs to be done. And often in project management, that is referred to as a backlog or a work diagram structure, but for now, that is of less importance. So the first fundamental skill of a project management is to analyze the work that needs to be done, and that is directly implementable into our daily life. We always have some work to be done, and we are always trying to understand what are the subtasks of it. Second important thing in project management is when these things can be done. What are dependencies between actions? What are durations of certain actions? Who will do or perform certain actions, and actually can they do it in that certain period of time? Taking again our house build as an example, you cannot build walls before you have fundaments. You cannot build a roof before you have walls. Very often mentioned example anyway. And also, what is important, if you have people that are actually building these certain things, the first question is, are they available? So and many other areas come into so-called scheduling, so when things can be done. The next important thing in project management is risk analysis. So there is always a risk that you are taking by doing some action. So if again we return to our example with the house build, if you are building walls, then you need to choose, for example, between different materials. So you can probably choose between, let's make it a really basic example, between something that is more expensive material or less expensive material. Then you need to analyze what is the risk if you're choosing less expensive material. Is it heat isolation worse? Is it sound isolation worse? Is it or better, as a matter of fact, does it keep weight properly? Does it last enough? And so on. You can have different answers on those questions, but we need to analyze those risks, and that is a huge part of a project management. Then you have implementation of all of these of your plans. So you are putting things into reality. Then you have analyzes what is happening when something goes wrong, or issue management, and so on and so on. When you see on these simple examples that you are, as a professional, handling these areas inside the project management, it is easy to understand that these approaches, these skills, are something that you can take with you regardless of an industry in which you work, and regardless of area in which you work. So you can implement them in your private life, you can implement it in your professional life, you can implement it in non-governmental or governmental projects, and so on and so on. So the answer is really resounding yes. But that is only the first part of a project management. Second huge part of a project management is being a leader, being having a soft skills that you need to have in order to cooperate with people and lead a team. And it almost goes without the saying that practicing to understand your team members, practicing to listen, being humble, being able to say that you don't know everything, using a knowledge of another people, using team to reach a common goal, is something that is applicable in almost every life area. You can practice it with your friends, you can practice it with your colleagues, you can practice it in any surroundings in which you are. And that is maybe the main reason why I really adore project management, because it gives you these skills that are both hard and soft skills that you can use in variety of activities across your lifespan. And what I would recommend is even to take some of the courses, basic courses of project management, in order even to understand and gain a little bit of these skills that you can use anywhere else. So the short answer on can you use project management skills in other professions is definitely yes, and the longer answer we just covered. So it is excellent question, and it really adds an importance to the whole area. Good. So that was the first one. And please do remember to ask questions as we go. Maybe if you want to hear some certain examples, or if you have certain example and you would like to ask how to react, or whatever comes into your mind while we are covering these topics. Good. So second question is how to organize when you are overwhelmed. And this is very fundamental question, very important one, especially in the current times. We have so many inputs, we have so much information coming to us on a daily basis, on every second, that often it is very hard to organize, it is very hard to keep yourself calm, and it is very hard to react on that amount of information, that amount of contacts. Often, actually, our daily reality is that we speak with the people from different cities, different countries, different continents, and often those are tens, if not hundreds, of contacts over a short period of time. That being said, when they all come to you in a certain moment, when you have tasks to perform at the same time, when you have issues to resolve in the same time, when you have deadlines, it is sometimes almost unmanageable to do everything. And that is when people get overwhelmed. That is when people get stressed. That is when more issues appear, when we lose patience, when we are under high stress and anxiety appears. So that is the moment in which many of us find ourselves in sooner or later. So now the question is how we manage it, how we find ourselves returning back to some calmness levels. And I will tell you what I do, and probably every one of us has different approach to such a problem, but there is no one clear answer. It is more on a individual basis. You may know what works for you, and maybe the main maybe the most convenient approach is to try to and test one approach, test another one, and see what does work for you. But what works for me is setting up priorities and actually physically writing down things that I need to do. So when I have huge amount of things to do, I like to simply put them down on the paper. So simply to transfer this mess in the head, transfer this energy that I need to use in order to have all of the all of the things in my head actually to the paper. So immediately I'm somehow make an order in a mess. So first of all, I'm writing things down, and then I'm setting priorities. And that's why we have to have priorities when we cannot perform everything right now. And if we can perform all of the things in our 8 hours, then we more or less we don't need priorities. But we need actually to know what to concentrate first on. And actually, not always you can make that decision. Not always things depend on you. And it is worth to ask to your manager, to your colleagues, to your whomever you work with, to set those priorities, straight, to say, okay, out of these 10 things, the most important ones are these 3, then we have following 4, and then we have following 3 of a lowest priority. What you cannot allow is answer that everything is important. So if everything is of the same priority, and if everything is of a priority 1, actually nothing has priority. So we have to be persistent in a way that we have to find what is priority 1, what is priority 2, and the 3. Ideally, you would already know it, but it is very recommendable actually to ask your team members what the most important things are. And then when you have it, try simply to avoid additional influences and information flow while you're concentrating on a priority. Today, that is very hard to do. We have our phones, we have our applications, we have our chats, we have our phone calls. Amount of channels through which people can reach to us, it's overwhelming. And we simply have to switch off ourselves often. So, for example, my team knows that I'm most probably not replying to emails. That is not because I disrespect them or because I don't want to. It's simply low efficiency of that communication channel if we want to converse, talk, agree. I use emails as official documentation when something needs to be confirmed, officially agreed, and actually officially confirmed that we have agreed on a certain topic. So, for example, emails is something that is on a very, very low priority on my to-do list. And then I try to tune off these additional channels. You can agree with your team how to respond on a certain chat messages, applications, and so on. So simply try to mentally focus on this one of your priorities. And now, let's say that generally we work 8 hours daily, right? So that this is something that we are paid for, something that we accepted, something that we agree that it is sustainable as a mode of operations for a longer period of time. It is very important to be able to close this PC lid, right? Or to switch off your computer, or simply to end your working day. It is absolutely hard to say that every environment you can do this in every environment, but it is also very healthy. It is very important to know that that if you work longer hours in a longer periods of time, you would probably not be as efficient, or at the most probably you will not have time to think. So you will not find a better ways to do the same thing. If you're always in these operations, if you always need 12 hours of work to do something, that means that the system in which we are working, if that is necessary, is flawed. So we need to make this counterintuitive step back and to understand, okay, how we address these issues so that in 6 months it will be better. And that's general approach that I have. So write things down, make priorities, agreed on priorities, and if possible, switch off additional communication channels. And be disciplined as much as you can to start and end your working day so that you can repeat it, and then in a longer period of time it can work so that you will not burn out. It is easy to say, it is not simple to implement, but that is how I manage. And if you have some good technique, please do share with others. And generally prioritization is something that is necessary. And maybe additional thing to mention: find a mentor, find also a coach, or simply a colleague that you can speak with. Don't hold all of these things inside yourself. Don't overthink alone. Normally we can find this friend, we can find this mentor, we can find more experienced person and actually ask for advice. Sometimes there are more clever things to do certain jobs, but don't hold everything for yourself. It's even therapeutic when you can simply speak to someone. So even by listening even to your own voice, you are reflecting on what you are talking about, right? Good. So this was a longer answer on a very short question. So let's see where we are. So the following one is: what is the most important parameter when organizing a meeting? All right, so this is a big one. This is a big one because meeting is probably the crucial working unit while we work in organization. So generally we have meetings with the people, we agree what we want to do, and then actually we perform actions. And meeting is certainly one of the elements where we can be efficient and gain a lot, but also, and very often, we lose huge amount of time. And now, what is the most important parameter? So there are many parameters, but if I would need to choose one, that is this clarity about outcome. Meaning that we have to know why we are gathering, right? So let's say that we want to align how we will create a certain application, let's say. So this has to be a light until, at the end of the tunnel. This has to be our guiding element. So if you stray from this topic, if you start to talk about something that is completely unrelated, and that happens very often, actually you will end up losing not only 1 hour, for example, of your time, but you will lose 1 hour of everyone's time. So the cost of such a meeting is not only 1 hour of one person's time, but it is actually multiplied. It is actually multiplied by the number of persons taking that meeting. So it is not even responsible, it is not professional to lose it is not even responsible to lose everyone's time in that sense. So clarity about outcome. And then if you have this knowledge where you go, the next important parameter is definitely agenda. So what we will talk about, what are the topics that we will cover. Then you can add certain documents. You can prepare your meeting. You can invite only appropriate persons who are interested in the topic, and so on and so on. Meeting preparation is something that is a huge topic. But if I would need to answer on this question with the one parameter and what is the most important parameter for organizing meeting, is definitely clarity about outcome. But then you have bunch of other parameters: how to prepare meeting, how to organize the time, and so on and so on. Good. What's the next one? Let's see. The next question, this is interesting one. Will artificial intelligence take over our jobs? And I think this question is actually as old as automation is in a human species. And wherever there is some new technology, new tool, we are asking similar questions, but with a different subject. And as of now, at least, I'm treating this question in a similar category. But let us actually drill down a little bit. So when we speak about artificial intelligence, we normally speak about general intelligence. let's say. We normally think that we normally have in front of our eyes this C-3PO or R2-D2 from Star Wars, intelligent robots or applications that are speaking to us as a human beings. And this is not actually something that is realistic as of now. I think that from whatever I know, I may be wrong, but from all information I gathered in different companies I worked with, we are, as in the sense of that technology, very far from this general intelligence, this reasoning, this human reasoning that we are afraid of. So in that sense, this is something that may be far on the horizon, or maybe even very far on the horizon, but this is not something that we have, at least now, or what it seems to me in the next 5 to 10 years. I may be wrong, but that is based on all information that I have. However, what we do have is a more and more advanced and more complex algorithms of data analytics, but also language understanding applications. What that means? That means that we have more and more advanced algorithms to recognize speech, to bring it to a written text, then also to analyze written text, and based on it understand, quote unquote, what we are talking about, and then pull out some actions. So these kind of applications are something that is more and more advanced, so that when we, let's say, speak to an application or to a robot, quote unquote, again, understands what we are talking about, and it can actually gives us the answer. Now, what is important to understand? Normally, this kind of knowledge, either certain data domain or a language domain, are really this so-called domain knowledge, right? So we need to train our applications and robots with huge amount of information inside this domain. So if we speak, for example, about IT knowledge, and if we would like to have this robot that is answering on a problem regarding certain application, let's take a Skype as an example, and if you want to speak about Skype and resolve certain issues, you need to have a huge amount of examples for your applications that application can learn from, and based on your question, it will analyze what the answer is the most probable one. And then, so those are domain knowledges. There is no human intelligence behind it. So when you speak with such a robot, it's based on a training. There is no general reasoning behind. So if you would switch to speak with this robot instead of Skype, switch to speak about juices, it will have no idea what you are talking about, because it is not trained about it, right? Now, when you then combine certain domain knowledge applications, so for example, text to speech to text application, then application that is analyzing your documents and can pull out some answers, when you add some deep data analysis and so on, all of these together can really appear as an immensely intelligent thing that brings this wow effect to a user. But when you drill it down, it really addresses certain smaller elements of work that could be analyzed, could be automized, sorry. Now, apologies. Sorry for that. Now, what that means, the most probably every of our job roles can be analyzed in such a way that we have a necessary human element, and things that can be automized, right? So on these things that could be automized, that are less intense brain using activities, these are the areas where we'll be actually implementing these softwares or applications, right? So more and more we will automate things that can be automized. But for me, that is only a good news, because human beings will have more time to actually think about certain topics and work on a more complex, more challenging, more fulfilling jobs. So automation will come, it will take and change jobs, it will automate a lot of things. But that is not necessarily bad, because then we would use human beings for something that only human beings can do, and it is more fulfilling and a better world, if you ask me. That also means that we should be active, learning, preparing for this better future, not being complacent. However, from my point of view, that's a good thing. If we go back to a steam machines, right? So people were saying we will lose all of our job because we were using horses, and so it was taken also as a apocalyptic event. But we are way beyond now steam machines, right? So and we have more people on the globe. So, and people have their jobs also. So as we lose certain even industries or jobs, new jobs appear, and it seems to me that throughout the history that was something that can bring us a little bit of a confidence. Of course, I do hear a lot of very clever, smart people that are developing actually general intelligence. Elon Musk is an example. All of the big brands are investing. IT brands are investing in artificial intelligence. IBM, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and others. So I cannot have 100% certainty what the world would look like in 50 years. But in a sense of AI and taking over project management and our jobs, I'm more hopeful than I'm worried. However, I'm also prepared to learn all the time and actually upskill myself all the time. Right. So that was a pretty long answer on a short question. I hope that you got something out of it. So let us see. Just give me a second to set up something here. There is a question from Stefan. I know this is a bit difficult question and a bit off topic at this moment. For the people coming into the PM world, what would be your most important advice in one sentence? in one sentence. So, if you like to be very well organized and if you like to work with the people, come to work in the project management. Was that good sentence enough, Stefan? So that's one sentence to sum up the project management. Good. Let us see. I think we are good with the time. We planned around 1 hour, and let's see what is the next question. How to receive a feedback? All right. So this is a huge one. So especially if you work in I think that majority of us work in some kind of a team, and it is absolutely natural that we have things that we notice that they are good or that they are not as good, and we tend to provide feedback to our colleagues, sometimes even unwillingly or sometimes even unconsciously, and it is a tough thing to do. So in order to provide feedback to someone, you really have to have this kind of courage, right, and openness to accept that what you are saying may not be necessarily pleasant for a person that you are talking with, but there is a other part of a story, and that is how to receive such feedback. And throughout my career, I had a opportunity to both give and receive feedbacks hundreds of times. And there is one important trait when you are listening to feedback. Try not to be defensive immediately. Try to listen and maybe not even react immediately. Especially if we talk about more of a negative feedback, right? If we are listening that someone is not satisfied with our work, right? And normally emotions are high. Normally you may feel upset, you may feel attacked, especially depending on the way how a person is actually providing feedback to you. Is it factual? Is it true? Is it objective? Or it's just some kind of gossip, or it's based on something that is not true. So what I would advise first is try to contain yourself from immediate reaction and try to listen what the person actually is saying. There is even this interesting effect. Even if feedback is not factually true, even if you did something but the person is saying that you haven't, listen for the reasons why such perception exists at all, right? So even if you have done something but a person that is providing feedback to you is saying that you haven't, there may be some communicational mismatch, some misunderstanding, some misalignment. And even in such cases, try to understand how that happened. But especially if feedback is factually true, if it is constructive, if you can gain from it, this is kind of often it is referred to as present to you, so a gift to you, so that you can learn and improve. Generally, getting feedback is the quickest way to grow, the quickest way to develop, and the most efficient way to get information how you specifically can improve, right? So when you're reading a book, it is not especially written for you, but when you are receiving a feedback, it is actually for you. So it is an absolute privilege to get a feedback that is specially intended for you as a person and as a professional, I wanted to say. So try to appreciate it, and actually first try to listen, restrain yourself from action, try to understand, and then calmly go into discussion, but not in this defensive way, but better to understand the person. You can freely disagree, but try to understand why this feedback is there, and to learn from it, if anyhow possible. Good. So that was how to receive feedback, and actually it goes directly into next question, how to give feedback. So in order to allow person to receive and hear feedback, you need to be very cautious and careful how you're providing a feedback, right? So First, and the most important rule is always to respect the person that you're talking with. You cannot go into one-on-one session to say that someone is not performing work well and attack this person with no respect and actually completely ruin the chance for a person to even react. And unfortunately, that is often the case. Unfortunately, that happens often, and it is absolutely the worst way to give feedback. So first and foremost, you need to remember that person that you're providing feedback to and yourself are equal as individuals, and that the person that you're talking with deserves the same amount of respect as you do, right? Setting yourself on that mindset is the great first step. So then you can say something like, hey, listen, we have agreed that we will speak about both good and things that we need to address. I wanted to speak with you one-on-one, just not to speak up in front of others. And this is the topic that I have to talk about. From my perspective, these are the facts. However, I wanted to hear your point of view and what do you think about it. So you are allowing the space to another person first to understand what you're talking about and to give his or hers perspective, right? So you do not take your point of view as a factual and then simply attacking the person, because the most probably and what often happens is that you simply don't have all facts, although even if you think you do. So there is the most probably something that a person can say in addition. So when you are giving a feedback, you have to start from this respect towards other individual, and when you and to give space for another person to react. And when you are receiving it, try to restrain yourself from reaction immediately. Listen what other person has to say, and then go into factual, calm discussion about the topic. Good. That was how to give feedback. Now the next question that we do have is: do you have to have a certain title in order to be a leader? And this is a good one also. I don't know if you participated in an interview that we had a week ago, and it was with Cesar Garcia, one of a beautiful person and an immense professional. When he reflected on a similar question, and that is, can leadership be learned? And he started from a point that, first of all, we are all leaders. We all lead ourselves through life, right? So the first area is actually to be able to lead consciously yourself through your day, through your week, through your year, and actually through your own life. And a reflection has to start from there. So immediately reflecting on a question, you don't have to have a certain title in your private life in order to be a leader, because you're already leading yourself. Now, if we go closer now to our professional surroundings, it is you who can speak with other people, who can maybe start certain initiatives, start certain thinking, just in normal conversations, just in normal work environment. You don't have to be a team manager or upline manager or any kind of official title in order to lead people through certain moments or periods in their life, right? So general answer is really you don't have to have a certain position in your work agreement in order to be called a leader. You or to tell it like this, you don't have to be on a certain position to be a leader, but what we also see often is that people in higher positions are not leaders often, right? So those two things can be connected, but not necessarily they are, right? And we have a question. In your opinion, what would be the definition of a bad leader? And I may go a little bit back on what we were talking about when providing a feedback. That is that is the same value. So for me, in my opinion, if you do not have a respect towards your team members, if you treat them not as you would like to be treated, if you treat your people as Excel spreadsheet entries, this is a definition of a bad leader for me. From my point of view, if you don't feel this respect to another human being, if you don't think that your human value is the same, if you think that you are more worthy because of your position in the org chart than anyone in the team, then for me those are the elements, those are the parameters when this person is not on a fitting position, right? I don't know if that answers to your question, but that's at least what I do believe and then think and actually act upon in my professional surroundings. Good. So the next question we have is when leadership fails, and that one actually comes exactly to the previous question. And I think that leadership fails first and foremost when your human values are not exercised, and when other people are not treated well. So what that means, it's a very complex question, but I will try to answer it in a couple of minutes so that we will have kind of overview. So first of all, respect, as we mentioned. So we will not repeat it again, but it is an absolute fundament for everything that we are doing. Then openness. If your team members feel that you're not open with them, that you are hiding some information, that you are not sharing with them everything, they will simply not follow you. They will always be reserved. They will always be cautious, and in the long run, that really does not work, right? Then trust, right? So if you're just saying certain things, we can combine, let's say, trust and integrity there, right? So if you're saying some things but you're not actually performing them, if you have your set of sentences that you're repeating, but in a daily work you're not actually showing to your people that you are doing what you are talking about, then you're losing your integrity, and team members cannot trust you that you will do what you're talking about. And this is definitely something that leads directly into failure when you speak about leadership. The next one is empathy. So if you are not showing that you understand another human being, if you cannot relate to them, if the only perspective that exists is your own, and not take into account another human being, and not putting them in a position to react, or a position to be understood, that's where actually leadership is failing. Um, and then you have to be consistent, right? So you cannot have values on the first part of the week and not have actually those values in a second part of the week, right? So you have to be consistent. You have to be always yourself in this case, so that people know what they can expect from you. Of course, mistakes do happen. You will make mistakes. We all do make mistakes, but then simply recognize that you made a mistake, and that's fine, right? We do have another question. Do you think leader, boss in some company should also follow same values in private life? And I will tell you my personal approach, and approach of many respected leaders that I spoke with, and I truly believe that has to be the case, that you exercise the same values in the working environment as you exercise in your private life. So if we speak about trust, loyalty, integrity, respect, openness, those are pretty universal values. And I often say that I'm not the different person at home, different person at work, and different person in the basketball field, or whatever I'm doing. I have to have, at least from my perspective, this integrity in being myself in these different environments. Of course, knowing the rules of behavior, so I would not come in the basketball outfit to the work, and vice versa. But as a core human being, I think that you have to be consistent in that sense. So thank you for the question, and I think it's important one. Good. We have 4 more minutes. If you have additional questions, please do ask. And now the last question we had is how leadership affects team success. And for me, this is huge one. So the role of a leader is to show where we go, is to show why we go there, is to explain why we go there, to have a clear direction, to inspire people, so that everyone can get on board and actually go into that direction. However, you're not doing this if you don't have this fundamental layer of values that we spoke about. And if your team members are respected, you're open towards them, you make decisions commonly, you plan commonly, simply your performance and knowledge about the overall work is much higher, and actually your business results are simply reflecting that. Good. And now if you would have additional questions, please do write them down. And in the meantime, I would simply ask you for a feedback. If you can, please do write it down. Please do answer, what did you find useful, what was not so good in the webinar, or what you would like to hear more about, so simply that we can improve as we go. We will stay a couple of more minutes. Do you have some additional questions? Thank you, Mohed, for feedback in the chat. Please do write down. would you like more of such a questions? You can also ask questions. You can send me an email on the same email from which you got invitation from. I can include these questions into future sessions. Let's spend a couple of more minutes allowing you to answer on a survey, and it's great to actually see you active, and thank you for participation. Please do write your questions either on via Facebook chat or here in a Click meeting, and let us then wrap up. Team, thank you so much again. Greetings to the whole world, and see you soon. See you next Wednesday maybe. Bye bye.